Hey everybody, welcome back to Engaging the Phenomenon, and welcome back to Ask UFO Twitter. Today we discuss CE-5, contact with UFO intelligence and non-human intelligence, human-initiated contact with UFO intelligence. CE-5 is a process of awakening, just one path of expanding your awareness and understanding the greater reality. Contact is also one of the ultimate red pills. Having a contact experience will greatly augment your perception of reality and the possibilities thereof. CE-5 is also a way of engaging the phenomenon directly, and it is a highly currently undermined avenue of research. I see CE-5 as being an incredible step forward in UAP, UFO research. There was also an excellent Jacques Vallée quote talking about finding a way to empirically view and engage with the phenomenon directly. So this kind of thinking has been around, and I think that it is a field where the standard could be raised much higher with diligent effort, and it is something that can take the UFO subject much further, not even just in the research avenue, but also in a method to really not only understand the phenomenon better, but have closer engagements with the phenomenon on a global scale, which seems inevitably will happen as time goes on. So that's just my spiel on CE-5.
Hi, my name is Andre Cardoso, and I'm the host of the CE-5 podcast, also known as Ambassadors of Hope. And I first of all want to thank James Iandoli for putting this together. I have a lot of thoughts on CE-5. If you want to learn more about all of my different thoughts, you can follow all the stuff that I'm putting out online. What I'd like to put a focus on and emphasize in this video is that it is how important it is to have your own thoughts on CE-5 and to form your own opinion and your own perspective on it. For me, coming into the topic of CE-5, I had a lot of questions and a lot of doubts, and was just, trying to figure out what it was like. What was CE-5? Is it something that's really happening? Is it something that I can actually participate in? Is it something that's worth it and safe to participate in? And I was really intrigued by the realness of it all, by the credibility of the other things associated with CE-5, the credibility of all of the other people who I found out were having real, what seemed like real contact experiences that were genuine to them and that they couldn't explain in other terms than realizing that, yes, you can initiate contact with extraterrestrial intelligence and have amazing experiences. And so I encourage you, as someone who's watching this, to have your own investigations into this subject and to look into CE-5 as something that you can do to further your own understanding of the universe and your relationship to it. Knowledge is something that comes from experience. It is different from belief. It is different from the information that you get from somebody else that you choose to whether or not to accept it. When you have your own experience and you are able to develop your own knowledge, that is extremely profound, and I encourage you to have your own experience, to explore the opportunity of close encounters of the fifth kind, to expand your own horizons and expand your consciousness, to bring us together and to have a positive impact on this world, on our route going forward as humanity. We have huge problems, and we have a huge opportunity to look at those problems and solve them from a higher perspective and one which is informed by the opportunity and the possibility for contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. So go out, do CE-5 yourself. That's what I encourage you to do.
Hi, my name's Sean Cahill. I've been asked to provide my thoughts on CE-5, aka Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. CE-5 is simply defined by its originator, Dr. Stephen Greer, as human-initiated extraterrestrial contact. The terms close encounter of the first, second, and third kind were developed by Dr. J. Allen Hynek of Operation Blue Book fame. He felt that those three things really established as much evidentiary value as we could in the field for those experiences. Close encounters of the first kind involved visual sightings, usually less than 500 feet and of high detail. Close encounters of the second kind are an event purported to have physical effects. Close encounters of the third kind are where an animated entity was present. Both CE-4 and CE-5 remain controversial outliers to Dr. Hynek's original three. I'm a security professional, meditator, and investigator by trade, so I'll try to stay to my lane and keep my opinions about other things to myself. I'm not sure that CE-5 is really anything new. I think that what people are experiencing can be chalked up to a great number of things. Prior to the CE-5 protocols being established, a slightly different method with similar results was widely practiced. That method is widely known as mediumship or channeling. The confluence of trance state, endorphin rush, Jungian synchronicities, and peak state events, they're known to occur simultaneously for meditators. In general, and especially for those that are experiencing what we often call the first-timer effect. I believe it's very important to set a baseline in personal consciousness before embarking on extrasensory journeys. If you can, learn to meditate without any crutches. Binaural beats, white noise, ambient music can all act as kind of inorganic entheogens to help you along the way. It's best to learn who you are unencumbered via Vipassana or mantra-based transcendental meditation, Advaita Vedanta, things like that. Now, not to be too much of a gatekeeper, but if you can't sit down for 20 minutes with your own thoughts, then how are you going to know when you were ever contacted by something else that's beyond your consciousness? If you can't slow it down, how are you ever going to be sure? Let's ask ourselves a couple of questions. Ask yourself why yogis traditionally don't discuss the entities and archetypes that are encountered in deeper levels of meditation. Ask yourself why, in general, discussing the siddhis is frowned upon. Ask yourself why there are many layers of dharma or teachings before one is recommended to encounter these levels of consciousness. I personally don't make a practice of opening up my computer to the internet without a firewall and anti-spamware, etc. I also don't open up my consciousness to the universe at large without placing some pretty robust boundaries between me and the other. If you don't believe that there are bad guys out there, and you use the phrase "as above, so below," check your math. Here are some tips on debunking and boosting the scientific value of CE-5 experiences. Here's a free astronomy class. Learn what's above your head every night, by heart. Check this website for local air traffic control tapes. Find out what went down in the airspace over your head during your sighting. Install a flight tracker app on your phone, so if you're out in the field and away from your laptop or your Wi-Fi, you can still do your best to identify what's in the air at the time. Research navigational and safety requirements for civilian and military aircraft. Familiarize yourself with satellite orbital dynamics. How debris and satellites increase in brightness as they climb toward their apparent zenith, and how that brightness wanes as they move away from zenith. Towards the end of my career, one of the duties I had in the Navy was as Administrative Laser Safety Officer. That entailed going to a pretty intensive course to learn more than I ever wanted to know about lasers. That said, just leave the lasers at home. But if you can't help yourself, remember, it's unlawful to shine them at aircraft. You could blind the pilot and cause a crash, and that's just something none of us want to see happen. But beyond that, a lot of the affordable lasers coming out of China today are pretty dangerous. They're far more powerful than they should be, and they outstrip safety guidelines by a mile. Lastly, Create a protocol. Write up a standardized form with all the data that will be relevant if you see something worth reporting. Time, location, weather, direction, altitude, mood, etc. On that form, also list what program you're using to track satellites and space debris. Remember, meticulous documentation should be provided coincidental to any video or audio testimony of experience. Otherwise, all you may have is a blurry light and a fantastic story. Follow your protocol every time. Meditate, meditate, meditate. Get inside your own head and know where its boundaries are before you let anything else in there. Bulletproof your experience with science. Don't just know, be able to show. Keep a record. Make your experience as close to a running experiment as possible. Help to feed the professional investigators with verifiable data that was fact-checked at the source. Be safe. Look out for each other. Don't be naive. Guard your peak experience. This is your ride. There's a pantheon of researchers that drank from the fame fountain and began spreading bullshit around when their gun never showed up smoking. Don't be that dude.
Hi, my name is Deeprasad, and I'm a quantum computing scientist and UFO researcher. So, when it comes to describing what a quantum computing researcher does, it's very straightforward. But when it comes to UFO research, the boundaries are not so well defined. And that's both a good and a bad thing. So, one of the classic examples that I can think of is the CE-5 protocols. With CE-5, essentially what it is a set of actions that you can perform that increase the statistical likelihood of seeing an anomalous sighting in the sky, even after you go through the checklist of whether this is, something prosaic like a satellite or a star or some sort of weird optical illusion. So CE5 is the idea that you can actually use your consciousness, really your mental willpower, and sort of increase the chances of seeing something weird in the sky. So people will often say that this is the equivalent of summoning UFOs. Others will say we don't really know what it is that's going on. What I took is a descriptive approach where we only describe what will happen, but we don't exactly know what is going on in the background. So one of my favorite examples of the CE5 is when people do it in groups. So I've done it a couple times, and they've actually been successful, which was quite mind-blowing. I recommend everybody do it, and to remember that it isn't just associated to, let's say, people like Dr. Stephen Greer or even the Rama group, even though they're technically the first sort of people who really formalized the study. The idea of intent and consciousness and using it to manifest strange things has been around forever. So that being said, I think that every field researcher or UFO researcher should at least try C5 once. And beyond that, I think that we're going to end up developing and mastering new sets of protocols. The interactions will increase as society increases their own sort of participation. And also with the increase in projects like UAPTN, UAPX, what we'll see is an increase in capturing tangible scientific evidence doing these CE5 group protocols. So yeah, the future looks exciting. I think we'll get more data and we'll get a better understanding of the nature of these UAPs that are showing up when people do these things. My current hypothesis is that it's some sort of von Neumann machine that uses advanced EEG sensors that are non-invasive. So we have ones that would still have to get attached to one's head. Whereas with, let's say, an advanced technology, an advanced EEG, you might be able to read somebody's brain waves from very far away. So that might be what's going on, or it might be something weirder. I know that people like Jacques Vallée would propose that. But yeah, there's lots of exciting questions to answer, and we will answer them eventually. And this is just like an amazing step forward, which is researching CE5. Thank you.
Okay, so CE5 contact, consciousness contact, non-locality, using non-local consciousness to initiate communications with some form of beings outside of our normal physical realm of existence, is something that has been the literal catalyst and the ultimate reason why I created Project Unity. I did actually originally learn about CE5 through Unacknowledged and through Stephen Greer, and then through my own research found out there were many other people that were involved in that type of CE5 contact effort, from James Gilliand in ECETI, and there's ECETI Australia and all sorts of different areas, and there's different CSETIs around the world, and there's other different civilian groups that are doing the same thing. And so I, went out with the understanding that I'd probably have my own experiences, and I did end up having my own experiences, and a lot of them you can hear about on my channel. Which I've spoken about in terms of things like orange orbs flying over my house, which I promise you are absolutely legit stories. It's all changed my life profoundly to the point where I had to make Project Unity, and I had to start learning more about consciousness so that I could start teaching other people about what I knew and get a better understanding of it. CE5 contact, some of the things that I've seen, it feels to be more on a metaphysical level, and so it just, for me, it's profoundly important. It's profoundly important that people understand it, because CE5 is just a way to understand yourself. It's just one of the paths to understand yourself, because through CE5 you have to kind of get yourself into a better understanding of meditation and expanding your own mind. And really, CE5 is about connecting with yourself before you connect with anything else, because you're not going to have much success if you're going out there with a skeptical mind, or you've got, judgments and fears and all sorts of mixed thoughts, and you haven't learned to calm your thoughts in a meditative process. You're going to struggle to have successful contacts, which will only further increase your belief that it's not real. And so you have to come from the foundation blocks, and CE5 is a really good way of just putting you on that path, which many other places do put you on this path. But CE5, to me, is just one of those ways to put you on the path of understanding about consciousness, understanding yourself and your connection to all things, the understanding that we are one energy being represented through all of these different physical beings and avatars throughout the universe and throughout, the cosmos. What I would say is CE5 is a very profound way to connect with yourself, and then the bonus to that is that you can then understand that you can connect with other beings. It's all about intention. It's absolutely all about intention. If you're going out there with a pure mind, a clear mind, and I know the thing is, I know it can sound a little bit woo-woo hippie-ish, but on a quantum level, this works. It is a way of clearing your mind. And when we say clearing your mind, all you're doing is reducing your thought process so that you're on a very clear bandwidth of brain function. And so if you want to go from that perspective, it's about being on a very specific bandwidth of brain function that can allow you to be very open and very clear-minded in what you're doing without past, issues and future worries popping in and out of your head. And that's why meditation kind of goes hand in hand with CE5, because meditation teaches you how to get into those very relaxed, deep states of just kind of open awareness. And through that, if you practice things like meditation enough, and for some people it's very easy, they click into it straight away. For other people it's not. And it's just like going to the gym or working out a muscle. You can't expect to do a few pull-ups or do a few sit-ups and suddenly have huge muscles everywhere. So it's kind of like, treat it the same. It's a mental muscle. It's a extra perception muscle. CE5 is about reaching out to other beings in the universe, I believe. I also do believe it's about reaching out to beyond the veil in some way, to the metaphysical, to beyond this physical realm. There are things beyond absolute doubt that exist that we can't explain fully yet, but seem to represent some form of evolution in consciousness. Thank you so much, guys, for letting me be a part of this. Thanks, James, for letting me be a part of this. And I just think it's really great that we're getting together as a community and people are, you know, giving their opinions, and it's all being put into one video so people can just get a nice gauge of different opinions. And so far with the first videos that I've seen, it's been, you know, a really, really fantastic kind of mix of opinions. And yeah, really, really happy to see where this all goes in the future. Take care, guys.
My take on CE-5 is this. Attempts at CE-5 or summoning UFOs are obvious indicators of one's readiness to make contact with higher intelligences. The frequency at which you do this practice and your dedication to it are also indicators to ETs of your level of readiness to make contact with them. Now, if you still have a little chuckle in you, or you dismiss it altogether as something crazy, that's also an indicator of your lack of readiness to make contact with these entities. I've been on a hiatus from CE-5 for about a year because my journey took me down a path where I had to reallocate my energy to relationship and business matters. But now that we found ourselves in this position with COVID-19, which I think highlights the need for disclosure, I've decided to resume my practice. When preparing for CE-5, we raise our state of awareness through the power of meditation, prayer, visualization, and the power of intention, so that we can meet these beings on what I would say is a vibrational level where they can be seen with the human eye. And this is why I think CE-5 is so important. I think it's essential that we connect with higher aspects of ourselves that we refer to as the others, but are actually manifestations of the one universal mind. So they're actually aspects of us. So that when we call on higher intelligences to come help us, it is actually us helping ourselves, if that makes any sense. By reaching out to maybe what religions refer to as angels and preparing for this practice the way you would prepare to speak to a high-level dignitary or king, you are showing that you deserve acknowledgement. And I believe this is what is happening when individuals practice CE-5 on a consistent basis.
Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is consciousness expansion at its core. It can sometimes be paradoxically this parallel, like saving the planet, giving hope to mankind, humankind, disclosure, free energy, new technologies, healing the world, healing our relationship to the planet, which is really exciting and really awesome, and I love that part of it too, but that is kind of to the side. It's not the primary, I don't know if function is the right word, but maybe modality. I think the most important part about CE-5 is that it is mind-blowing. It shatters realities. It expands possibilities. It helps you to become your most authentic self. You learn how to become high frequency, and you learn, it's like a portal into another world where you learn all about all kinds of things like multidimensionality, the illusion of time and space, the idea that we're all one, and all of these things. So I think that what CE-5 is basically that. It is understanding better who you really are.
To me, CE-5 is a beautiful tool and a reminder of how easy it is to go outside of our box existence and really experience absolutely everything and anything we've ever wanted. It's a reminder and a beautiful starting point of expanding and growing in such beautiful ways that we could never even imagine.
And I feel that CE-5 is just the modern nomenclature for something that's been happening for thousands of years, maybe even longer, with the indigenous tribes and other ancient cultures. We are just giving it a new name and bringing this ancient technology of consciousness into the modern world for more and more people. to experience.
Thank you everybody who contributed to this Ask UFO Twitter video. Look forward to plenty more soon. Thanks guys.